I think there's a situation we have at hand that, for whatever it's worth, maybe manage to bring it to the fore, and then we find a way to discuss and move forward. Now you remember that ahead of the 2024 elections, the NDC party, now the government, basically had a flagship program, or should I say promise. It's one that was more of the overarching pledge that they were making to the Ghanaian people. That was a 24-hour economy.
Right.
And if you recollect, a lot of us were quite clear that a 24-hour economy is not and cannot be a policy, and that it is only going to be an outcome of several different policies. I vividly still remember, and I have the videos of a lot of NDC people basically throwing us off. I remember I was on show with Felix Kwachofu, so now government communications minister. No, that's not true. Then they went on to explain. You remember all the varying explanation. That day, I remember Felix's explanation was that how many watches sellers were selling watches 24 hours, and that they were going to make sure watches sellers were selling watches 24 hours. You remember the famous Pudong man? The president himself said that nightclubs will be operating 24 hours. And this is him saying explicitly, nightclubs. He spoke about football matches that will be played in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
The chairman spoke about the Organizer and the Techiman Highway and all of that. And we kept saying that you cannot put a gun to the head of a private businessman to operate 24 hours. And that it's a demand and supply situation. That if the demand requires that they operate beyond their normal 12-hour, 8-hour shift, they will do it to be able to meet that demand. Again, they chew us off. You also recollect that they explicitly stated two things that they think they will do immediately to activate it. One, they said that they are going to ensure that all private businesses that decides to run 24 hours will be given some utility, electricity, subsidy sort of. And they were quite specific on that. I remember that I even asked them how they're going to even implement that, because if, for example, today I produce water and I produce 10 boxes in my normal shift, and you tell me that if I operate from 6 p.m. to the next morning, you give me electricity at half, I will just decide to split my 10 boxes into 5 and produce 5 in the day and produce the other 5 at night and make money. So we always thought that you cannot artificially, execute that. Again, we said that they were creating the impression as if there will be 24-hour economy across the entire country. And we kept asking them and we kept insisting. It was one of the reasons why the chairman then came to explain that, even the Techima of Organizer will operate 24 hours and all of that. But we kept saying that there is nowhere in the world that the 24-hour economy operates everywhere in the country. There's nowhere. Even in the most advanced worlds, go to the street of Washington. By 8 p.m., the biggest malls you can think of are closing.
Yeah.
Even Oxford in the UK, you have 24-hour economy, but probably just in the city of London, the Oxford Street and all of that. So we kept saying it, but they did not listen to us. They've launched a document they call the 24-hour policy. And basically, the 24-hour economic policy is basically a footnote, simply a footnote of the Ghana Beyond Aid document. If you look at the Ghana Beyond Aid document that was launched by this country, it is holistic, it is comprehensive, it has a massive industrialization drive, economic revival in there that is already being implemented. And I would ask everybody to go and pick the document and look at it. Go to the Ministry of Trade website. You will see policy documents that have been there since Kufuor era that are basically reflecting in this 24-hour economy. That is not what they promised. They promised us. Look at the automotive industry that was activated in the past 6-7 years. 8 of them or more of them in this country. Something we've never seen before. These are all things that are already happening. So you promise us heaven and earth. You come to office and then you come and put together existing policies and existing documents and present them a bureaucratic document and present them to us as your policy for 24-hour economy. Let us be real. This is not politics. The fact that you give money even to a business does not mean that that business would automatically have to operate 24 hours. If the demand and the need for it is not there, and you even force them to operate that way, that business will collapse. So you have to come clear and clean and tell us that The 133 that you promised explicitly, that we should vote for you and that when you come to office you will implement, you simply are unable to do it. And that what you have launched is simply an industrialization policy.
This document does not do justice.
No, it doesn't. I mean, this document is no different from the Ghana Beyond the Day. It's no different from the economic program that President Kufuor had. It's no different from the economic program that Atamils had. There's no difference.
Isn't that where the problem is? Because if it should date back to even Atamils, and we've not been able to fully implement, then we have a problem.
I agree. That is why I'm saying that it's a deceptive government. You see, it's a big deception. It's a grand scheme of deception. That you promise us one thing and you are delivering something else. You see, what they have produced is exactly what we spoke about when they went about this country, making that unrealistic promise of 24-hour economy or with night clubs, with football clubs and all of that. That is the point we kept making. That before you be able to get an outcome of a 24-hour economy, you must stimulate the economy. And that once you properly stimulate the economy, the outcome of those individual separate policies may produce a 24-hour economy. But you don't put it in the minds and the heads of the people that I come and I'm going to introduce something called 24-hour economy. Remember they spoke about 133. They even went ahead to ridiculously indicate that ministry, and this morning I pulled 73 videos of different people, including the president. Ministries would even operate 133. Why is it that when you go to the ministries, they are asleep at 6 p.m.? And that they should be operating, and that whatever role that is being played, they'll bring a third person. They went ahead to even say that banks will be operating at midnight and did adverts showing us people issuing checks at midnight. And we kept saying that it is not true, that it doesn't operate that way. Here we are. I conclude. Here we are.
You've made a point.
You have come to office, and you are basically executing a completely different thing. Now, what the NDC are doing with the document they've launched is that they are implementing set of economic policies, hoping that these set of economic policies will translate into a 24-hour economy. That is not the promise that they made to the people.